Dyslexia Awareness Week. We've got a conference in Brentford on November the 5th, and we would like to offer everybody from the webinar a 10% discount on the conference rate. If you are interested, that's the link. So please do have a look at the range of speakers we've got, and if you'd like to come, do get your 10% discount. We'll put that link on at the end again if anyone's missed it. Obviously, we've had a whole range of previous webinars in the past. These have been on diagnostic testing, these have been on visual stress, on memory, all sorts of things, and these can be downloaded from the website. We've also got our international conference next March, and we would urge people who are new to the B.D.A. to join as individual members and get plugged into all the work we do. I know people are joining from abroad, we have overseas memberships, and we would like everyone to join us and hear about the work we do. So just a few housekeeping things about tonight's webinar. It will be recorded for transmission later. Aaron will be doing his best to get this out as quickly as he can, but it generally takes like 2 or 3 weeks to actually get it on the website. And then you'll be able to access it through the website free because you paid for it the first time. We're very clear at the B.D.A. that we don't endorse any products and we're not responsible for the views of the speaker. If you have paid for CPD certificates, these will be sent on after the webinar, and they may take a couple of days to get to you, but if you have any problems, do contact magc at bdadyslexia.org.uk if you have any problems. You can ask questions at any time, and we welcome any questions. They'll be read out at the end of the webinar. If you don't want your name in the recording that Aaron is doing, please let us know so that we don't put any recordings on. So we really appreciate you coming on tonight, especially on the Great British Bake Off final. So hopefully you'll stay to the very end. And also join some of our forthcoming webinars. We've got the next one on the 20th of October, and Dyslexia Austin will be talking about exam access arrangements and giving everybody a top up on that. So I think that'd be a really good one. And then we've also got a range of other ones. Gavin Reed talking about dyslexia-friendly schools, and some very interesting ones in the following year. So do log on through Eventbrite for that. Okay, so that's enough of me. Now over to Pamela, and welcome. Good evening, Pamela.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I've unmuted you, Pamela, and I'm going to just make it a small comment. The dyslexia-friendly webinar is with Neil Mackay, Katrina.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I keep making that mistake, don't I?
You do, yeah. Yeah. And I don't like to contradict my managers, but also this is a free webinar. It's a free webinar, so there is actually no certificate for this webinar because it's a free.
Oh gosh, you're quite right. You're quite right.
So it's a free webinar, so there's no thing. If you have attended any of our previous webinars or attend any of our other ones and you pay for certificates, it's right to contact Mag. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to swap over. That's all right. Swap over to. I'm going to swap you over to Pamela. Pamela, if you want to press OK to the message, click yes to display my screen, and then if you just click on that's it, and then just press F5. And there you go, you can start your presentation. So I'm going to hand over to Pamela, and I hope everyone enjoys the webinar.
Thank you very much, Aaron and Katrina, and welcome everyone. Thank you for coming and joining us and listening to, I suppose, my views on making sense of dyslexia. It is absolutely a personal view, and I cannot stress enough that I am not a qualified nor trained psychologist. So anything that I speak to you about this evening is literally just coming from what I experienced as a child through school, what I experienced as a semi-adult, I'll call myself, during my university years, and then what I've experienced in the working environment and moving forward then into being a dyslexic entrepreneur. So the methods that and the coping strategies that I will share with you throughout the next half an hour to 45 minutes will literally just be the methods and coping strategies that worked personally for myself. And that can't be stressed enough. Everybody's different, and I know that every dyslexic is completely different as well. We see things in different ways, we learn in completely different ways, but we have commonalities. And my view is the commonalities that we share are the strengths that we have. and what we don't share is our weaknesses tend to be in different areas. So in terms of the outline and the structure that I'm going to take this evening, I like being structured, and I suppose this is one of my dyslexic traits that I'm always quite bad at. So I have to ensure that I am always structured. So to take you through what I'm going to take you through this evening, I will do an introduction just about myself. I'll tell you a bit about who I am from a personal perspective. And then I'll take you through making sense of dyslexia. And that's through the education environment, what I personally had to overcome, and how I coped with it. I'll take you through that from a working perspective, so when I had to go into a working environment, my hurdles there and how I coped with them. And then, of course, being a dyslexic entrepreneur, and you know, even though it comes more naturally to me to be an entrepreneur than it does to work in a large blue chip environment, there's still hurdles that I face due to being dyslexic. And then obviously, as Aaron said, I'll sign off with any Q&A, and you can ask me anything that you like. So just to give you a bit of background on myself, I am an extremely proud dyslexic and stammerer. I have a slight speech impediment now, although it's quite slight now. It was fairly bad growing up and as a child. I've managed to cope with it and learn different strategies for that to help me out as well. In terms of who I am, Pamela Uddin, and an awful lot of you might know me as the Irish girl who appeared on The Apprentice last year. To say that dyslexia follows me absolutely everywhere is an understatement. I still have dyslexic traits, and it doesn't just hit me when I have to do something to do with work. It literally follows me everywhere. And one story that I tell everybody, just to make sure that they understand what I'm saying, is last year when I went into The Apprentice and I was on my way into the boardroom for the very first time to stand in front of Lord Sugar, and I was on the phone to my mum in the car before I went in, and I was talking away to her, and they take all your personal items away from you. And I was chatting to her, and they were trying to get the phone from me, and I was just saying, you know, just trying to get the last bit of advice from her. And I was saying to her, you know what, Mum, what if they don't get me? And she was like, Pamela, what are you talking about? And I said, I'm so weird and I'm so quirky. What if they don't understand who I am? And she said, look, just go in there, be yourself, it'll all be fine. So off I went, gave the phone to the producers, didn't know when I'd be speaking to her again. It all depended on when I got fired. And I went into the boardroom, and it was probably the most nervous I've ever been. And after that, we walked out of the boardroom, and then we had to go in to get pictures taken. And we couldn't see anybody else getting their pictures taken. So one by one, each candidate walked around. And you could hear everything, though. So I could hear the photographer talk to, I think it was Lauren Riley, who was before me. And all I could hear the photographer saying was, you know, be a vegetable, be a vegetable. And I'm thinking in my head, oh my God, is this a dyslexic thing? Why can't I understand this? Why do photographers say to you, be a vegetable? This is really, really weird. And I just started to panic, because another dyslexic trait of mine is to panic very quickly without thinking things through. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to relax myself. I'm going to go in and I'm going to go up to him and I'm going to go say to him, look, I don't know what you mean. So they called my name and I walked around and I went straight up to him and I said, look, before we start, I overheard what you said to the previous girl, and I just want to say that I don't understand what you mean by be a vegetable. He said, Pamela, what are you talking about? And I said, well, you said to the other girl to be a vegetable in front of the camera, and I don't understand what that means. And he said, Pamela, I think you misunderstood me. I said, be approachable. And then I thought, oh, okay, wow. And that's everybody laughs at that story. It's yeah, it's quite funny, and I suppose that's one of the things that dyslexics are always well known for, is their humour. And it's not because we purposely mean to, it's just because sometimes we get confused. And for me, I get confused quite a lot. So in terms of who I am, just so you know a bit more about me and a bit of my background before I delve into things. I wasn't always a confident person who was able to talk and stand up in front of crowds of people. I come from a very humble background, always have. I was an undiagnosed dyslexic until the age of 14. So I really went through my school years were absolute torture. I found them extremely hard to get through. I had teachers telling me in class that I was stupid. I had to go to the special class to keep up with the curriculum. And I don't know if they still call that the special class, but back then, which wasn't too long ago, I was part of that special class. And, you know, I was told in front of my peers in class, Pamela, you sit next to the bright girls so you can learn and catch up with everybody else. My eyesight was always bad from a very young age. And looking back now, I was made to wear glasses, as you can see from that lovely picture that my mother absolutely adores and I hate. But yeah, I was wearing glasses as a very young child. And I look back now and I think, my eyesight was never bad. I just thought it was because the letters moved so much on the board that everything was blurry. So yeah, I struggled through school. And even when I was diagnosed as dyslexic at the age of 14, I still struggled. However, I managed to overcome it, and I had great help along the way. My mum probably been the best help I could ever have, and probably would never be the person I am today without her support. And she carried me through my school years, sitting with me hours on end at a kitchen table, making sure I did my homework every night. I moved then I got enough grades to go in and do my degree. And my degree was probably my hardest thing so far. I will say, from a PowerPoint perspective, I'm not going to do death by PowerPoint. I don't like too many words on a page, as you can probably see. So I'm all visual. And so excuse the images upon it. Images, it's just the way I best speak. So yeah, I think when I went into college to do my degree, I had a lot of personal hurdles that I had to overcome, and there was a few things that came to my mind. After about 6 months of my first year in uni, when I was studying marketing, I wanted to leave because I just felt so overwhelmed. And I can remember having a conversation with my mum saying, you know what, I can't do this. I need to do something else. And hairdressing was on my radar. However, being the rock that she was, she said to me, no, Pamela, you need to stick at least your first year out. And there were so many problems that I struggled with. And in that first year, just simple things that can feel so daunting going into such a big place. It's, where are my classes? How do I read my timetable? How do I find the door, the class that I'm going into? All these doors have these numbers on them, E15, E125, F, D, and I can remember just missing classes because I just couldn't find my way around the building. I suppose one of my other problems was organisation and structure. I could never understand how do I organise my separate subjects. You have about 6 a term, and I just couldn't figure out how do I organise that. There's so much information per 6 subject. I suppose one of my big realisations that I had to come to was that I had no idea how to study for an exam, because all my exams I did previously, they have got really bad results. Frankly, I realised that I had no idea how to study. I didn't know even where to begin. And then my other one was that I had no idea how to put an assignment together, because when I was younger, what I used to do is my mum used to write me an essay. I used to learn it off by heart. And when it came to an exam, I used to change the introduction and the conclusion to suit the title of the essay, but all the middle chunky bit I would have just learned verbatim because my mum wrote it out for me. So there was an awful lot of things that I had to try and overcome in my first year. And every dyslexic has completely different pitfalls and has to deal with different things. How I dealt with it was I had to figure out what way my brain works. And at the time when someone put a mind map in front of me, I thought, oh my God, this is so confusing. And it was such a challenge. But I think it was less of a challenge to try and figure out how to mind map and retrain my brain as to trying to fit into this square box that I could never fit into because my brain is just not like that. So in terms of organizations and structures, and please forgive me if this seems like so basic and like, you know, how did you not know this? But for me, this was a big, you know, eureka kind of a moment. Different color folders for each different subject was just a lifesaver for me, because I knew that when I came out of one subject, my notes had to go into that folder, and then that color was for that subject. And I did the same where I linked my notes from my actual folders that I brought into university, my notes on my computer and my files there, and then I linked those colors with my timetable. So I made sure that each color was the same across my timetable, my files on my computer, and my actually hard back folders. And that's kept me organized and structured. In terms of taking notes in class, I did mind maps. What I also did, which helped me massively, was I made sure that I got the notes and slides before that class. So I would go up to the lecturers, annoy them so much, as I'm sure they'll tell you now, and made sure that I had all those notes before I went into class. And that just prepped me for the day ahead. So then I could read through them at my own pace, not feel panicky, and then I could understand, right, what do I know from those notes and what am I really confused on? So that when I go back in the next time, I'll say to myself, well, can I ask you a question about this because I didn't really understand it? And then I'm aware of what I don't understand, where if I didn't do that, I'd go into class, they'd give me these notes, and I'd just panic and feel like I'd know absolutely nothing. And that helped an awful lot. Again, just highlighting things in different colours, that was my major thing. I loved my markers because it just helped me so much. And one of the things in terms of exam prep, what I always did was when I knew I had to learn something for an exam, I would write out my answers in bullet points only, learn how to expand on them. I would go downstairs or come home from the library and teach my mum the things that I knew I had to write in that exam. And by teaching somebody else what you're supposed to know, it automatically makes you more confident about recalling that information and makes it easier as well. So they're just some tips, and they probably won't work for everybody, but they might lead you to developing your own special ways of doing something. So moving on then to making sense of dyslexia from a business perspective, this is where I think I got the biggest shock kind of to date, I would say. When I left university, and I moved in then, I did an internship with L'Oreal in Dublin. And I said to myself, this is brilliant. I don't have to worry about dyslexia anymore. I don't have to recall information for exams. I don't have to write assignments. No one's going to be checking my spelling. And then I realized, kind of in my first 2 weeks there, that there was other hurdles that would come to face me from a dyslexic perspective. And for example, one of the things that I did was in L'Oreal, I think back now and it's so silly, in L'Oreal I had to design a big banner, so a huge kind of corporate banner, and to redesign it I had to send measurements to our graphic designer. And I took this banner into a boardroom with a measuring tape, and I opened the measuring tape, and I laid the banner all on the ground, and I could see the banner, and I opened the measuring tape, and I looked at it, and I thought, oh, feck, I can't read this measuring tape. I don't know what centimetres are, I don't know what inches are, I don't know where do I start, what's width, what's breadth, what's length, I don't know any of these things, and I started to cry, because as a 22-year-old woman at that stage who had a degree, who had a master's, she couldn't figure out how to measure a banner. She can't go back out and tell her boss that she can't do it because she's only there 2 months and her boss is going to think, oh my God, what did I hire? So I did the next best thing, and I rang my poor mum. And I sent her a picture of the measuring tape and the banner so she could explain to me how to use it. As my time went on with L'Oreal, I realised there's an awful lot more things that I struggle with from a dyslexic perspective in a business environment. One is not being able to keep time. One is not being able to keep track of my diary. Forgetting what I had to do for the next day, going to meetings and not knowing what meeting I'm at and what it's for until I'm in there. And there was an awful lot of things that really got in my way. And I suppose one of the big things for me was when I was at L'Oreal, I went on to, and I wanted to do the graduate program. And in order to do that, I had to pass numerical tests. You know, you do those 30 numerical questions with graphs, and you have to have them done in like 20 minutes, something insane. For me, it was insane being dyslexic. And I remember thinking to myself, I'll never be able to pass those tests. I know I won't. And I did the tests, and I got something like 20% out of 100. And obviously then I didn't get a place on the graduate program, even though I knew I was capable. Those tests don't suit the way my brain works. I'm different. So there was an awful lot of things I had to try to overcome. So in terms of my coping strategies for a business environment and what I've learned, organisation and structure was key to everything. That kept me grounded. That made sure that I knew what meeting I was going into, what day it was on, who I was going to meet with, and to have all that information, I needed to be organised and to get organised. So the second bullet point to the sixth or seventh, those bullet points are key because those are the things that helped me make sure I was structured and organised. So again, going back to colours, making sure that on my calendar, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday were all different colours, making sure that my meetings per person or per team had a specific colour so that whenever I met with a supply chain team, they were always blue. So I only had to see blue when I thought supply chain. One of the things that I did note help was when I was in meetings, I was trying to take notes, missing words, misunderstanding, and not actually listening because my short-term memory was so bad. So what then I decided to do was, you know what, I'm just going to sit there, I'm just going to listen to them. When I come out, that's when I'll take notes. And granted, we don't always have time, but when I did, that's what I did do. To try and overcompensate for the fact that I know a working environment is quite fast-paced, and they don't generally make allowances or slow down for people who have dyslexia, the only assistive tech that I use and that I absolutely love is the Livescribe Pen. And for anyone who doesn't know it, it's basically a pen that records, and it's on special paper, so you can write the heading of what you're talking about on the paper. Then the pen will record the conversation. So when you go back to read your notes, all you have to do is click on the title, and then it will tell you everything that you spoke about that topic. And it just made me more confident that I didn't have to keep rehashing or recalling information, and it stopped me from getting less confused, more confused. Prepping the night before, I think as dyslexics we always have to put 110% into everything, and I think half of that is that we need to, because we need more prepping time, because it's not allowed for in the work environment, and half of it is that we have to work 110% harder because we feel like we have to. We always feel like, you know, the majority of dyslexics, you know, I'm yet to meet a dyslexic that hasn't had some sort of a hard time of sort during their schooling years. And we always feel like we've got something to prove. We always feel like we have to prove something. We have to prove that we're intelligent. We have to prove that we're smart. We have to prove that we can do it. And that makes us work hard. And, you know, and that determination will definitely help you get over those hurdles, but you do have to do things in order to help you along the way. And for me, prepping the night before was probably the best thing. In terms of the graduate programs, I haven't really figured a way around that one yet. Graduate programs are there to assess us when we come out of university, and as a dyslexic, for me personally, I just can't do those aptitude tests. They just never agreed with me. My mum always used to say to me, if you just practice them, just keep practicing and practicing. I think I had such a mental block up against it that, yeah, that was kind of half my battle. But kind of half of it as well was I shouldn't have to try practice something when I know it's not my forte and I know I'm not going to do well. I have a disability, and although, I don't particularly like calling it a disability because I see it as it gives me more strength than it does weaknesses. I still have one, and it's classed as a disability, and that's because, we learn in different ways, and our brain works in different ways to the common folk that don't have dyslexia. So why should I try shape myself to fit an aptitude test or exam that is never going to work for me? But, to be honest, still with all those methods in place, I struggled to reach my potential within the working environment. After I finished the apprentice, I went to work for Unilever, and I still struggled. And then I thought to myself, I mustn't be the only person in this area that struggles. There must be other people out there that struggles the same way as I do, and they must be trying to overcome the same things that I am. And alongside of that, as well as the struggles, they must be as bright as I know I am. They must feel very intelligent and so underutilized at work because there's not procedures in place. So what I did was I then left Unilever and I started my business. And I took that leap of faith. And that slide is just to give you a small bit of information. I wouldn't expect you to read all that. But just to give you a bit of information, if needed, about what my company actually does. And as well as offering advice and driving awareness, what Dyslexia Agency now does is we make sure that there's practical adjustments in place. So we make sure that your employers invest, whether it be in the tech that you need, the Livescribe Pen, whether it be Dragon, whether it be Read and Write Gold. We make sure that you're trained on that. We make sure that your peers that you work with and your managers are all trained to understand that you work in a different way, that you need to be approached in a different way. But with all those differences and changes that the company and your peers have to implement with you, there will come great success from you. You will then be able to reach your potential and show the business as a whole what you're capable of. And that's what our company is mainly about. We have a network that we've developed for our clients to get involved in, and basically what that does is it makes sure that there's an internal forum within the company that you work for. So like they say 10% of the population has dyslexia, that's 1 in 10 people in the workplace. So imagine if your workplace consists of say 500 people or 2,000 people, that's a lot of percentage of your workforce who are dyslexic. And those are the people that we try to build into forums, build a network, and then we will network you with other Dyslexia networks in other companies. And that will be so you can share and you can talk to people that are in the same position as you. You can share what your struggles are. You might find someone who has similar struggles or who has found a coping mechanism, and they'll share that with you. And that just creates a community of people with dyslexia, and that idea and the aim of this comes from my personal feeling of when I was dyslexia and in the workforce and in university, I felt alone. I felt like I was the only person struggling with these issues, and that was hindering me reaching my potential. Where if I just had someone back then to talk to and to relate things to, I think I would have done an awful lot better. So I'm going to move on then when we talk about my business and what I've set up, and talk about in relation to making sense of dyslexia. and being an entrepreneur. I think they say that a lot of entrepreneurs, I think they say that 1 in 4, 1 in 3 entrepreneurs are dyslexic. And to me, there's a reason for that. Although dyslexia hinders us in some common ways, it gives us strengths in different ways that people without dyslexia don't have. And from a business perspective in a corporate environment, I think the strengths that we always kind of collectively we tend to have is out-of-the-box thinking. We have innovative thinking. We're able to develop and create concepts. We're able to problem solve in new and fresh ways. We don't just see things from top down. We can see them from all angles, from all sides. We can think about all possibilities, all eventualities. We can think about all of them and we can visualize them. And we play things like a movie in our head that if we pick option A, this is how it's going to run. If we pick option B, this is how it's going to run. And we have all the angles covered. And people who don't have dyslexia can't do that. I think one of the common things that I was always kind of misconception about dyslexia in myself was that these things where I knew I was creative and innovative, I just thought that that was natural to everybody else. Until I realized, you know what, being creative and innovative and being able to see things from different angles, that's special to me because I have dyslexia. And because we're so good at it, we think of it as such a common thing that everyone must have it. And because it comes to us so easy, we think, well, everyone must be able to do that. And, you know, it came to my realization that, no, everybody's not able to do that. I'm able to do that because I'm dyslexic. And it's making sure that you find what your dyslexic strengths are and utilize them. So moving on, what I thought I would do is, if any of you out there are thinking of running your own business or thinking of setting up, I will just thought I'd give you some advice and some knowledge that I have had since setting up my own. And I think the first one is never forget about strategy. I think with dyslexics particularly, because we are so creative and we see so many options and we think we can go into so many different channels, we've got loads of ideas and we just want to dip our 10 fingers and 10 toes into loads of little different things. And if you're going to full force start a business, starting it on that kind of a ground is not good for the business, because as dyslexics, we're so passionate and we're so determined to succeed because we need to prove a point. We get so caught up in the idea of everything that we forget at the end of the day we need something that's going to work. We have to find a gap, identify that gap, find an innovative way of problem solving the gap that you've found, one way or 2 ways, but don't find 5 ways or 7 ways. You can develop those extra bits as you go along, but start off with one focus, one strategy, and stick to that. Because we like to go around and try little bits here and little bits there, and that is absolutely fine if you are still in a stable job with a stable income. So that's just one thing from my experience I would say bear in mind. The second one that I would say is always make sure that you plan. You plan your 0 to 12 months. You have a plan that within your 0 to 12 months, I am going to succeed and I am going to put one objective down, that in those 12 months I want one objective, and out of that objective I want 3 things to happen. Those 3 things are get 2 big clients on board, 3 medium and 2 small, and I'm going to get an income or a turnover of X, and that's my plan. And that's then from a financial perspective and a client perspective, but then from a marketing perspective, I'm going to do 2 big campaigns, X and Y. I'm going to invest this much into them. Make sure you have that plan and do that for your 12 months to 1 year, and then make sure you've got a 1 to 5 year plan. Because if you don't have a vision of where this is going, you will get sidetracked. Because again, going back to the first point, we won't have a strategy in place. So that strategy will help you develop those plans for your second step. And the third one that I'll always say is prepare to fail. Because unfortunately, people must fail, and in order to succeed, we have to make sure that we fail to learn from the mistakes. So whether that be a tiny little fail where we approach a client and they say, you know what, no thank you, and we learn, well, that's not probably the best way of approaching them. So make sure you are aware of everything that you are doing, and that if you do get a hiccup, don't give up. Identify it, identify what you've done wrong, and move on and learn from that. And I suppose before you take that leap to leave your job and your cozy salary, I would say to you, make sure you've got 3 main things in place. The first one is you've got all your marketing material done. So anything that's going to cost you, make sure you have that done before you leave that job, to make sure that you can pay for it and you're not trying to pay for it from your profit funds. The second one is make sure you have some sort of client, that when you leave your job, you're going out into your first client. And the third thing is that if you need an investor, have that sorted before you leave your cozy salary. Because passion and determination is brilliant, and a lot of dyslexic entrepreneurs succeed because they have that passion and that creativity and that drive. But at the end of the day, passion and creativity do not pay bills. And you need to make sure that you have those 3 things in place, that you know that, yes, I have the passion to get myself up out of bed every day, to keep going and go through the hard times, but I also have the strategy to be that comfort and that hurdle to lift me up on if something does tend to go wrong. So that's just, I suppose, from a business perspective. So from a personal perspective, what I've learned in terms of starting a business, I suppose the first one I'd say is don't listen. Don't listen to people who tell you you can't. Prove them wrong. Always believe in yourself and always believe that you can do it. You just might have to go about it a different way. So if you fail the first time or the second time or the third time, if someone tells you you can't, prove them wrong. Don't listen. Learn from your mistakes. Get back up. Try it again. Try it a different way. Try it a different way again. My second one is don't worry as much. And that's probably very personal to me because all I seem to do is worry and panic. And again, that's one of my dyslexic traits. I think to myself, you know, there's a few months after I left my job to start my business, I woke up thinking, oh, feck, get a job quick, ring a recruiter, quickly. And then I just thought to myself, you know what, calm down, it will all work out. Life has its path for us, and if we choose the right path, it's the right one. Go with the flow and see what happens. There'll always be jobs out there, and anything that happens at that moment in time, I always say, happens for the right reason. My third point is always listen to people who support you. My mum was a major support for me throughout my educational years, throughout my childhood. She shaped the person that I am now, and that came from the person that she is. My mum is a very strong, determined, independent woman, and she helped develop me that I'm now very strong, independent and determined. And she has helped me along this past year, and she's given me so much encouragement and so much advice, and I've listened to what she has to say, and that has helped me an awful lot. And again, my last point is never be afraid to fail, because in order we need to succeed. And I did a speech last night, a keynote speech in the British Library for the B.D.A. And I have a famous quote that I like to talk about to do with failure. And I always, and I came out of the speech last night, and the quote that I used was Isaac Newton 1,000 failed experiences before he had his 1,001 of the light bulb. And I came out of the speech afterwards and I said to my co-founder, how was that speech? And he said, it was brilliant, Pamela. He said, the only thing was Isaac Newton didn't invent the light bulb. He discovered gravity. It was Thomas Edison who did the light bulb. So again, that was a lovely, another dyslexic moment that I came out with, where I confused Edison with Newton. So I'll leave you with a proper one tonight, which is Edison had 1,000 failed experiences or experiments, before he discovered the light bulb at his 1,001 experiment. So we just need to keep going and trying. And I love facts and figures. Not really, because I am dyslexic, but this one I love. 60% of self-made millionaires are dyslexic. 60%. Let's just take 2 seconds looking at that stat on our screens. 60% of self-made millionaires are dyslexic. That is not coincidence. Why is it that 60% of us are self-made millionaires? It can't be purely based on our determination and passion. It's based on skills that we have. I believe that it is based on specific dyslexic skills we have. When put to good use, we can do something very special with our dyslexic skills. And please do not forget that. Because it's that quote and that stat that drove me to start my own business. And although I may never be a millionaire as much as I'd love to be, that drives me. That stat makes me get up out of bed every day and keep doing what I'm doing. So the last thing I'll leave you with, signing off now, will be inspired, stay inspired, and dream, because we need that terribly to keep us going. So thank you very much, guys, for listening, and I am available for any questions now that you have to ask me.
I think that was...
Pamela, thank you so much for that. Thank you. I know your mother's listening. I'm sure she's really proud of you. And I think it's that you're a wonderfully inspiring person. Because Pamela
thank you.
She is a B.D.A. ambassador for us, and I hope she'll carry on doing all the good work for us.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
As of yesterday and today again, Pamela, it is really inspiring to listen to you talk, and when I listened to you yesterday and again today, and I know we were talking afterwards of how you can cope with your stutter and your stammer, and I would have never known because I spoke to you before the event, before you actually said that, I would have never known that you had that. Now So I think that you've done amazingly well. So we have some questions coming in. That is good. I'm just going to open up.
Brilliant.
I've got.
Your photograph.
So
photograph is gorgeous as well.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my mother loves that. If you're speaking about the one with the glasses and my hair in a mess, that was. I think it was my first day of school, and my mum absolutely loves that photo. And I think I look like the geekiest child there ever was.
I think as well, Pamela, from the last couple of slides you were saying, I think that you have to have a dream. And I think if you said there, and I think you counteracted yourself, because you said that you may not get to be a millionaire. But the thing about it is, you see, if you don't dream it and you don't work hard to get it, if you work hard to get it like you will get there. So that
exactly.
I think take your own advice on that thing, because I think you will get there.
Thank you.
It is, and as well, and while we wait for questions, why me, Katrina, and Pamela have a conversation? We do hope people will ask some questions, thinking about it. Yeah, so please put some questions. We have had something from Jill. So Jill has said that was great, thank you. So that's brilliant. Thanks very much, Jill, for that. But please, anyone else, do ask us a question. Do go into the question box, send it through, and I can get Katrina to read it out for us and ask Pamela. So we'd like a bit of Q&A going on here.
Absolutely. If there's any questions,
Can I ask, Pamela? So you know your when you found your Livescribe pen, did that how did that make you feel?
Oh my God, I'll never forget it, because I only found my Livescribe pen when I went in to do my master's. So I went through 4 years of doing a degree, and I did get trained. I tried to get trained on Read and Write Golden Dragon, but it never did work for me. And I think it was because when you have to train it, I can't remember which one you have to train, but you have to speak into one.
Yeah, that's Dragon.
Dragon, and because I had the stammer, and at the time, my stammer was still quite bad back in university, and because I had the stammer and I had to try train Dragon with a stammer, it never worked. So the software never worked for me. So I went through my degree with no software really. And then when I went into my master's and I went up to UCD in Dublin, and they gave me this Livescribe pen, I just thought, oh my God, wow, this is brilliant. I don't have to be panicked in a lecture trying to remember everything. I can literally just sit there, sit back, draw something that will, put a structure on the lecture for me, and I can listen and I can just take it all in. And one of my tutors in the time, he always said to me, if you just sit there and pretend you're a sponge and just absorb, that was the word he always said to me, absorb everything in like you're a sponge. And that mentality just worked for me. I don't know what it was, but I think the Livescribe pen gave me so much confidence in myself that I didn't have to remember. It stopped me from panicking. And then I had this kind of mentality of just being a sponge and just being relaxed in class and just taking as much of it in as I can. And things that I couldn't really get to grips with, I could listen back later that night and then email the lecturer with that question and say, you spoke about this, but I don't really know what you meant. Could you explain it again? And I felt so empowered.
Yeah, I think the thing about it is, if people use assistive technology properly now, and most people will know, if you don't know, that I'm also severely dyslexic and I am a big user of assistive technology. And I always say training is very much right, and I think you are right that if you don't get on with anything, it won't work for you. And that was like for me when I was at school, I got given the very first part of Dragon, and it just didn't work, so I never used it. Now I use it every day, and I can't live without it. I'm going to stop talking about me, and I'm going to ask Katrina to read the question I've just sent to her.
Yes, I can't quite read that at the moment. Obviously, we've got an assistive technology webinar coming up. Dominic Lucas from Dyslexic Action is going to be doing that, and he's learning technology, so that would be very interesting.
Yeah.
And we have also got previous webinars about using assistive technology for exams as well, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. Yeah. Have you got the question up?
No, I haven't got.
Can you see on your control panel? Can you see View at the top?
The control panel.
Okay, click on. Can you see?
I need some assistive technology here myself.
Okay, well, I'll try and help you there. Can you
have a go, Aaron?
Okay, I'll have a go. Right, I can read the first question, but unfortunately I can't read the person's name. But the question is, how do you go about overcoming dyslexia? How do you overcome your dyslexia? How have you overcome it? How do you feel like that? And that's the question.
In terms of overcoming it, I don't think I've ever overcome it. I don't think anyone can overcome it because it's something that's a part of you. I think the one thing that was massive for me is I accepted it. I accepted that dyslexia is who I am, and it's not what makes me who I am, but it is definitely part of me. And I accepted that I would class myself, I come from a Kent estate, a very humble background. I went from living in a city of 50,000 people to now being in, central London. So I class myself as fairly successful now. And I don't think I ever would be where I am today if, for a few factors, but one of the main factors is that I'd never be where I am today if I didn't accept that I had dyslexia and accept the fact that, yes, it does make some everyday things more difficult, but it gives me certain strengths. And I think you have to, as a dyslexic, you have to go away and analyze, how do you find your strengths and what are they? And that's work that I do with other dyslexics as well, because that's quite hard to try and find. But I think once you find what your strengths are, then you feel like, I suppose, you've overcome it, or you can live with it and you can work with it, and it's not something that you constantly think about that you feel like holds you back. It's actually something that drives you forward. If that answers the question, I'm not too sure if it does.
I think it does from your personal perspective. It does. Have you found the questions, Katrina?
I have now, yes.
Yeah.
So the next question here. Thank you, Pamela. I'm a teacher and wanted to learn more about how I can support my pupils with dyslexia. Did you get much support at school? If not, what do you think would have helped you?
That's actually a very good question. I didn't get much support at school, and I don't know if there's an awful lot of support out there even now. What would have helped me? Yeah, it varies, doesn't it? I know that. I know in Ireland there's still not a lot. I know in the UK that it varies depending on different schools, different locations, what they have access to. But I think what would have helped me an awful lot is making sure that there was somebody trained there to work with me, and not only trained in a way that they understood the technicalities of dyslexia, but that they understood that I learn in a different way, and that they understood that if you're wanting to teach me something, that you need to teach me in a different way. And I completely understand from being a teacher's perspective that you don't have the resources, you don't have the time, you've got a classroom of 30, 40, depending on the school again. And if you've got one dyslexic in that classroom, it's quite difficult to change things to suit just that one person. But this study's been done that if you adopt the teaching skills that dyslexics need and adopt it and put it to the whole class, that it increases the test scores of the whole class. And I don't know if that's true or not, and I don't know if that actually works, but I know that what I would have benefited from is someone teaching me in a way that suits my brain, someone teaching me through visual aids, someone teaching me the techniques to study for an exam, to take a test, someone going through that with me. I think that's what I would have really benefited from. And I suppose I did. I benefited from that when I went into university. I had that person there who did that with me. But yeah, I think if I could change the educational system for children now, and I do go into some schools and I do a bit of training and I do talk to some teachers and I do some workshops with children, and that's what I tend to do with them. I teach them techniques to take notes in class a different way. I teach them techniques to study for exams a different way, do your homework a different way. And that different way is suited to how their brain works, and that's through visual aids.
I think...
Michaela, that was a question from Michaela, and she was asking about specific support for pupils with dyslexia. We have got quite a lot on our website about that, and quite a bit in some of our books, and we have our dyslexia-friendly handbook, and there's a free abridged version on our website that you can download if you're interested, or contact us for some more tips as well.
I was just going to say the thing that Pamela said there is very much what the B.D.A is for, isn't it? I don't know. I don't know if you've swallowed our handbook on our mission, but
no, believe me, I haven't.
Yeah, because I think that's the thing, and we want to make that clear, because that is the thing. If we carry on what you said there, it'd be amazing. Just before you read the next question, I just wanted to read what Rose said, because Rose has actually left, and I think it's very good. She said, that was really helpful. Thank you very much. It's made me feel really empowered. And she's had to go, but thank you so much. I think that's... I think the thing about it is it is making people empowered. Do you want to read the next question, Katrina?
Yes, I accept it. It's just suddenly gone. It's gone. Okay, David, come back. When Pamela mentioned she struggled to find her way around her company, that really resonated with me. I didn't realise that was a dyslexic trait. yeah.
Yeah.
That's practic as well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you talk about moving into a workplace environment straight from university, I think it's such a shock to the system, particularly when you've got dyslexia, because there are other hurdles that you have to overcome. And it's those things of you're up against such a talented pool of graduates that's just come out with you. And then you go into a working environment where there are no supports in place. So as a dyslexic in university, you'll have your software, you'll have your tutor, you'll have some sort of support, there. The minute you go into a working environment, because companies are still not au fait with disabilities, like I'm not speaking every, but the majority of them still are not au fait with disabilities. How do you cope with them? What do you have to put in place to make sure your employees are included and can work well? That's just not there. So a person goes from a graduate with all those supports into a workplace where there's nothing, and that is so difficult to cope with. And that's what I found. I mean, I went into L'Oreal, I went into Unilever, I worked for some small companies before that, and there was no supports there. And I went from everything to absolutely nothing, and I felt like I was right back at the beginning of school again, having to, learn to make friends for the very first time, and you have all these, and then that panic comes back, thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get through this? It's such a difficult time, and I think in terms of what I do from a business perspective, that's what I work towards now. That's what drives me, because I know what that feels like, and I hate to think that anyone else has to go into a company and feel that way, because it's not a nice feeling. And if we were supported in the right way by a company, we could reach our potential and unleash our dyslexic strengths. Therefore, probably make a lot of money for that company. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I'm not the only one that feels like that.
And I would point out that there is support available through Access to Work, obviously. So
Yeah.
Lots of people do get support from the government in work. For example, I worked with somebody who was a postman who needed someone to go on his round with him and enable the post to go to the right places. So there are things out there. Yeah, there are things out there, and again, we can help with that if anyone wants any extra anything about that as well. So Alexandra's asking, what support would have been beneficial to you at university?
I think when we're talking about extra support at university, I think more time with I had like kind of a special needs tutor that I would see for an hour once a week. I think if I had more time with her, that would have helped me an awful lot, because she was very well trained, and I think they have to be trained to a certain level and they have to understand as well. But she really helped me. Her name was Tony, and she really helped me throughout my degree. I think what also would have helped me was a network of dyslexics in the university I went to, because I went in there feeling completely alone, and like I said, after the first 6 months I just wanted to quit. I went back to my mum and I said, you know what, this is it, I have enough, I can't do this. And I think if there was other peers who were suffering from the same thing as me and who were going through the same feelings and emotions as I was, I think that would have helped me an awful lot. Now, do bear in mind that I also had the stammer, and again, it's not as bad as it was back then. So even for me to make friends and to mingle with my peers was quite difficult for me, and that kind of overwhelmed me a bit too. But I definitely think just having more support and just having someone to talk to, not necessarily having someone to teach me new skills and to drill things into me, and I think just having someone that I could go to and say, oh my God, I'm struggling on this assignment, and just so you can vent almost, I think that would have helped me an awful lot more.
Pamela, did you get disabled students allowance at university?
I think because I went to university back in Ireland, Katrina, I can't really remember what I got and what I didn't get. Now, I know I went to WIT, so it was a college first. I went to Waterford Institute of Technology, where I did my my BA in marketing, and they were very helpful, and my lecturers were very helpful, but that was because I annoyed them so much. I went up to them after every lecture, told them that I was Pamela, told them that I was dyslexic, told them that I will probably be emailing you every night, asking you questions. You know, I made myself known in the class, and that definitely helped me. But I do know that I did get help, and they did give me a laptop with Dragon and Read and Write Gold. I got a tutor that I could go to for an hour once a week. She'd help me with my assignments and stuff. So I do know I got some support. But I always look back and think, if I had known other students that were dyslexic and could go to like a group once a month and sit down with them and just have a discussion about things that we're struggling with, I do think that would have helped an awful lot.
Definitely, and obviously, disabled students allowance is very good for if you're here in England doing a course. Lucy's asking about tips for online learning courses, whether no teachers ask face to face. She's doing an online course for starting the design industry and finding it hard to learn the CAD design because I'm reading written lessons instead of videos. Any tips?
Say that again. I couldn't really get that. You said she was doing an online course and she's looking for tips in relation to...
She's finding it hard to learn the CAD design, CAD design, because she's reading written lessons instead of videos. Any tips?
Okay. Now, I don't know
what level that is, actually.
Now, CAD, as far as, I could be completely wrong, but I'm sure CAD is a design system or a software system.
Yeah, it's correct. Computer-aided design.
Oh, look at me. There we go. Look at me. I'm all intelligent enough at my technology.
And is it 3D as well, Aaron? And I think
it can be, yeah.
Yeah. And that can be very problematic as well, particularly if you're on the dyslexic side.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure because you're learning virtually, so you're learning from a computer and you're learning online, and it is very hard to stick to the course material. What I would say, and I don't know if you've tried this, and if you do, if you have, then that's fine. It might sound very simple, but any notes that you do get online and learn online, I would encourage you to print them out. And I know having to print stuff is so old school now because we're so high up in tech, but I would print them out, and I would print them out. I'd highlight things that you need to highlight. I'd make your own notes from them and try and make your own notes within a visual kind of a way. So that's what I would tend to do. That, or if you're struggling to just basically read them, maybe try use the software. Is it Read and Write Gold or Dragon?
No,
reads it for you.
The two pieces of software that read is Read and Write Gold and Clara Read. They're the two ones that are screen. Well, they're text readers, so they're text to speech. And I would say, if you don't mind me stepping in.
No, absolutely.
If you're having problems with that kind of thing, if you are an auditable learner, then that is the best way forward. And that's the thing. The benefit of what Pamela's just said about print stuff and highlighting it, doing keywords, making your own kind of notes. That's all study skills work. This all stuff that you do in study skills, and this is what some specialist teachers teach you to do. And I did that at school and at college. And I think that if you are finding it difficult, go back over it as much as you can. I know when I did an OU course and I started it, and I had everything on CD, and I just spent hours listening to the books, so I could listen to books and take notes. And my Livescribe Pen was used just to take notes because my handwriting's so bad. I used that. So using technology as much as you can, I think would work really well for you, Lisa. So I'll send. The other thing would be is if it's suitable for disabled students allowance, that course, and then you would get a tutor who would help you access the course maybe as well a bit better for you, put it in a different way for you. Yeah. Tom is asking about, as well as the lifestyle pen, what strategies do you use to be confident to allow your strength to shine through?
So the first one was, what is the Livescribe Pen? Is that correct?
Because he's put lifestyle. Sorry, it's the other one, isn't it?
Yeah, as well as the Livescribe Pen.
What strategies do you use to be confident to allow your strength to shine through?
I think from a personal perspective, the strategies that I use to feel confident, if you're talking from if you're using the Livescribe Pen, I'll assume that maybe you're either in education, in kind of uni education, or you're in the work environment. From the educational environment, to make sure that I was confident, I got to the point where I went up to my lecturers, as I previously said, and I went up to them and I told them who I was. And I basically made sure that they remembered me, because in a university you've got so many students, so many lecturers, so many tutorials, and then they have so many students. And in order for me to get the best out of what I needed to learn, I needed to make sure that my lecturers knew who I was. So I went up to them and I said to them, I'm going to need your help. I have dyslexia. I will be emailing you. I get confused on the simple questions and the simple answers. However, once I master them, I will produce good creative work for you if you can just help me along the way. And I just made sure that I tried to be as open as I possibly could be. In terms of a work environment and in terms of being confident, that I still struggle with, and I'll be completely honest with you, because in some ways I still feel like the underdog. I still feel like I'm trying to break through systems that are not made for me. I still feel like I have to prove my worth. I still feel like I have to show everybody that I'm not stupid and I'm actually highly intelligent. I just struggle on the simple things. And I think it goes back to that thing of developing your confidence and owning the fact that you are dyslexic. Own it, wear it, make sure that you know that you are dyslexic. Let it empower you. Make sure everybody else knows that you are confident, you are dyslexic, and you have got super strengths that nobody else has. And then when you develop that outward kind of characteristic, then you will go home, you will look at what are my weaknesses and write them on a list. What are you weak at? And like my list is organization, timing, structure, and there was another thing that I've completely forgotten now. And then I know on my strength side, I have a strength side. What are my strengths? I'm creative, I'm innovative, I think fast, I problem solve fast, I problem solve in a new way. What else are my strengths? I can talk my way out of any situation. I have good, I build good rapport with clients because I'm better at speaking than I am having to type. And then you start to learn your strengths. And then you can, when you have them on a piece of paper, you can start to outweigh, right, there's my weakness. Now, what strengths do I use to overcome that? So on the right-hand side are your strengths, on the left-hand side are your weaknesses, and try start using one to combat the other. And that's how I did it. But I don't know if that'll work for everybody, but that's just how it worked for me.
Great. Well, Kimberly's saying, Pamela, that was amazing. Before starting a business, when you worked in other companies, did you feel it was a struggle to cope, or did the company support you in getting daily activities done?
Katrina, I'm really sorry. I can't really hear you that well. It sounds quite muffly.
Sorry. That was a question from Kimberly saying,
yeah.
Before you started your business, when you worked in other companies, did you feel it was a struggle to cope, or did the company support you in getting daily activities done?
I'll be completely honest and say it was a struggle for me. I very much struggled, and I struggled because there was no supports in the companies that I worked in. And I can understand it to a certain perspective, because I suppose the line of work that I was particularly in was extremely fast-paced. But I worked with managers who weren't trained about what dyslexia was. I worked in a company where there was no network there, so I couldn't even talk to other dyslexics, and I felt very unsupported. And I think that's what drove me to start the business that I have and to start that Dyslexia Disability Network, because in the companies that I worked for, there was none of it there, and I felt like if that was there to support me, I would have worked twice as hard. I would have succeeded an awful lot more, and I would have gone on to, you know, to do great things. So unfortunately, for the companies I've worked for, there wasn't the right supports there for me. But I think that's just a development. I think the more we do these kind of things, the more we talk to more people, that will hopefully expand and change.
I think that's so true.
Right. I think that's all the questions.
Oh, sorry, that's my fault. I forgot to assign it. I do apologise. I was tweeting at the time. I apologise. I was. That's it. There you go, Katrina. You've got. Yeah.
So Adele's asking. She's saying, I work with children who have dyslexia as well as other learning difficulties. I find your speech very helpful to start, to understand what barriers the children are up against and how I can help them going forward. Thank you for sharing your experiences. I will hopefully be able to take some of your technique back to school with me. And that's from Adele. Well, that's great, Adele.
Oh, thank you. That's lovely to hear.
So let me send you now David's one. Trina, there you go.
Thank you so much for a great talk. It's so enlightening for me. I would like to share this with my friends and family as I feel it would help them understand me better. Great. Well, hopefully as soon as it's on the website, you'll be able to share it with everybody, and then hopefully they will understand you a bit better and see all your strengths as well. Adele, is there any chance we can have a copy of the slideshow, please? As I love the visual timetables.
Yeah, absolutely. I can share those. I'm not too sure how you can share them, Katrina, but I'm happy to share anything that I have on there.
If you email it to me, Pamela, and then what we'll do is we will email it to everyone. If you give us a couple of days, because of Dyslexia Awareness Week, I won't be in the office for the rest of the week, so I will send it out next week to everyone.
Sorry, Aaron, I completely interrupted you there. What I will say is I got that from Google. So I went into Google and I typed in the search box colourful timetables.
Yeah,
and
on there. It's also, if you look at Pinterest,
yes,
I
love
Pinterest pages, and also Pinterest has got some wonderful pages on there for visual timetables.
Katrina, can you just move?
Yep.
Can you just move your microphone up a little bit, because you are?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
That's better.
Yeah. Oh, much better.
Oh, great. Okay. So Vicky's saying thank you. Very good to hear you talking about the issues around adult dyslexic, and it encourages me in my daily life. I was diagnosed at 38 and found it so enlightening. I'm trying to raise discussion about dyslexia now. I'm in New Zealand, and I'll talk about this presentation today. Thank you again. Kind regards, Vicky. Oh, well done. Yes.
Wow. Oh my God.
Overseas member in New Zealand. Well done.
Vicky, that's amazing. The fascinating thing is, what time is it in New Zealand now? It's got to be the middle of the night, or even the following day. So hopefully it's good. I've got another one from Lucy, so I'm going to send this over.
Thank you so much. I didn't hear all of what was said because the phone was muffled. Can you send me info on the technology you recommended for me to use?
Okay, is that technology from a work perspective, or I think probably potentially work?
Yeah, Lucy, do you want to answer Pamela's question, and we can help with that one?
Yeah.
Why Katrina just reads another one from David.
I'm just going right the way down to David's question. It's slow.
If you delete the old.
Yeah, it's because I've got so many on here. Considering there is such a wide spectrum of dyslexics, how do you decide what is dyslexic and what are personal traits? I felt in the past I fell into a self-fulfilling prophecy where I wouldn't try and master something because I thought I couldn't, so I just gave up.
Wow. First thing I would say to David, I think it was, am I correct?
Yeah.
Is never say you couldn't and never say you can't, because I will do my mum on it. Practice makes perfect. You can never not do something if you put your mind to it. It just means, because we're dyslexic, it just means that we can't do something the conventional way. It just means don't do it or try to do it the way that everybody else is. You have to try and find your own way. And yes, I appreciate that will take more time. and you'll need more patience, and you will get frustrated. And I've been through that. I've been down that road, and I go down it nearly every day when I hit a block. But my first thing is never say you can't, because you can. You just have to learn a different way of approaching it. And by learning a different way, you have to fail a few times to get the right way. I think the start of that question was, how do you identify your personal traits against your dyslexic traits? Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
That's a good question, and that is a struggle for me to think of an answer for, because I tend to say that my personal traits are my dyslexic traits, if that makes sense. So, Katrina, in the speech you gave yesterday, when you said dyslexics tend to have a good sense of humor, that resonated with me. And the only reason why I know I'm funny as a person is because I'm dyslexic, because people laugh at the things when I get confused. And when I was smaller and younger, I used to get very offended when they used to laugh at me about those things. But now I just embrace it and I laugh along. Like yesterday when I said that Isaac Newton invented the light bulb. There's nothing you can do about it. You made a mistake. It's funny. Move on. But I tend to think that my dyslexia traits are my personal traits. They make me who I am. And any of my personal traits that, you know, when someone says to me, God, you give great advice, or you're great at building rapport and relationships with clients, that's a business personal trait. But I'm good at building relationships with clients because I'm good at talking. And I'm good at speaking and talking because I had to be, because I was never great at having to write and explaining what I want to say through words on a written page. I had to learn how to say it and how to speak it. And that's why now I have that skill. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. I'm not sure if it does, but that's just how I see it.
Definitely. The other thing, David, is it's never too late to have an assessment, have some tuition. I've taught people up to the age of 70, 75 who've always thought they were dyslexic, and just for their own peace of mind, they wanted to know definitely, and they came to tuition, and it really helped them. So it's never too late. Yep.
I think you're so inspiring, Pamela. Me and Katrina listen to a lot of webinars, and we listen to lots of people talk, and we listen to people that like yourself that is from a personal perspective, and we listen to professionals talk about their professional thing. We listen to lots of people, but I think you've really used your dyslexia to support your ideas and move yourself forward in life. And I think that's the thing it's so inspiring to think that if you don't, you've got to put yourself out there to move forward. I think it's really good. We have no more questions at the moment. So if anyone has any more questions, we have still got a little bit of time left if people want to send a question in.
And the other thing is, if you want to send any questions in after the webinar, we'll always answer anything. And send them, if you want to send them directly to me, my email is katrinac@bdadyslexia.org.uk. And we can always get things to Pamela as well.
Yeah. Even if you just reply to the email that you got sent to log into the webinar, please do that. And we have said it well. If you have any other ideas of what webinars you want us to put on, do let us know. We like to have feedback on our webinars, and so we can actually make them part of what the B.D.A does. It's a brilliant way of spreading awareness, and again, it's an inspiration to listen to people like Pamela. And I think it's great.
Thank you so much, guys.
Do you quickly want to mention the books as well?
What the books? Okay. So if anyone, as I am an entrepreneur myself, and I like to sell things, we have a special offer on the B.D.A's anniversary set of 10. So if you haven't got our set of anniversary 10, That's right, isn't it? Yeah, and it's a set of 10 of the anniversary books. Go on to our online store now, which is bdastore.org.uk, and basically you can buy all 10 books for £45, which is about a 66.666% discount. I think I worked it out the other day. So do really take on advantage. It's only going to happen until the end of October, and then they're going to go back up to a higher price. I don't know what that will be yet, but that will happen.
£150, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The other thing is that the store has got a lot of the technology that we've talked about in
Correct.
the
Yes.
talk
And
in the store.
And if you want to see some of that technology, if you're like thinking, I want to look at the Livescribe Pen, or I want to know what Dragon is, on Thursday and Friday of this week, we are one of the show partners for the TES SEN show. So if you just Google TES SEN, we will be there, and also there will be a number of there's 2 or 3 assistive technology partners there that we know of, and I know that Livescribe will be there, and I know that Nuance will be there, who makes Dragon, and there'll be companies like Ian Sist, who's one of our organisational members, that also supply them products, and we'll be able to give you like a 5 or 6 minute demo of what they are. And come to the B.D.A stand. There'll be myself and a few people that use assistive technology on the stand, and you can come and talk to us. You've got one more question, Katrina, that's come in.
Yes, I've got here, KV's asking about the most helpful study skills beyond reading and writing. I mean, obviously organisational skills are very important, but also some of the skills of note-taking and note-making, skimming, scanning, all of those things. And there are books and things in some of our books about study skills as well, in the Dyslexia handbook. What do you think, Pam? Anything else?
Well, in terms of, I think, is it studying skills? Is that what I heard, Katrina? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Study skills beyond reading and spelling. Writing.
Study skills with writing, is it?
Beyond reading and writing. Oh, actually, touch typing, that's one of the best things to do as well.
Study skills beyond reading and writing. I said it when I was talking, when I was going through my slides there. What always helped me was teaching somebody else, and it works for some people and it doesn't work for others. But I find that when I have to learn something for an exam, or when I have to learn a speech even now, or do anything, if I teach someone else the theory or the question or the answer, when I have to say that to somebody else and teach them that theory or the method, I just automatically feel like I learn it better almost, and I'm able to recall it quicker from my memory. And that really works very well for me. What also works well for me is highlighting things. That, you will read something, but then you highlight the buzzwords, and the buzzwords are kind of the adjectives that make the sentence. So it's not like the and it's like strategy and the name of the theory and how it's developed. And that helps me. And then I make my own notes from the notes I was given. And that helps me an awful lot. And that's kind of mainly the first stage that I go through. Then the second stage would be, after I make my own notes, I would then make my long notes into bullet points, into short notes, and then I would learn the bullet points, and I'm able to recall my longer notes, and then I will go and teach that to somebody else. And that's how I do it. So I hope that's helped.
But a lovely last question, statement here from David, replying, thanks for your answer, Pamela. I couldn't agree more with what you said. Once I decided not to accept things, that things couldn't be changed, I've made great progress. Being in engineering, I certainly feel that some of the typical traits of dyslexia, such as creativity and abstract thinking, are a big advantage to me. And let's not forget working with computers. That's really interesting, though, because I'm going into a meeting next week about engineering and dyslexia. And so if there's anything else you want to pass on about your experiences in engineering, do pass them on.
That's brilliant. That's great to hear. It's so good to hear that, and I think that just puts a bit of bang behind what I just said, that you do have to embrace it, because you can. I mean, everyone goes through a hard time in life, and we all have our bits that we go through, whether it be in our past or that we're going through now, and everyone has different challenges to face. And I've gone through my schooling years being, I've been dealt the bad card, and I've got the stammer, and I've got the dyslexia, and I can't read and write, and I find it very hard to spell, and I get confused. But I think once you take ownership of it and start thinking, well, what can I actually get from this, and how can I work it to my advantage? I think that's when you start to feel very empowered. So it's great to hear that somebody else is in that boat as well.
That's very positive. Thanks, David.
We have no more questions. It is now 8:30. We normally finish around this time. Oh, David has sent another question. Very good. You're very good at typing there, David. I've assigned that to Katrina now.
Okay, hang on. Let's go back up a little bit. There's a lot of great advice around working with about strategies for work and studying. What advice would you give a student who doesn't feel that they have a time to learn and get used to new routines with a heavy workload, which are made worse by the dyslexia? There's a lot of... Sorry, I think it's repeated the question twice, sorry. So it's basically about the advice that you would give to a student who doesn't feel they have time to learn and get used to new routines with a heavy workload, which are made worse by dyslexia. Actually, if I could just come in there and say, if you are working and you need support in work, then get something called a workplace needs assessment done, and then someone like ourselves or Pamela go in and work with the line manager and maybe get you some extra time to learn these new routines with a heavy workload. There are things out there. The companies are getting much more used to having to make reasonable adjustments because it's a law. Under the Equality Act, they have to support you. So
yeah, absolutely.
Do bear these in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if as David, I'm assuming that he's in a work environment. Is that correct? He's not in an education environment. Yeah,
but
I think
studying for exams while in a work environment.
Yeah, I think it is so difficult for dyslexics to juggle and to dual role two things, because we generally have to be able to do something and execute one thing brilliantly. We generally have to concentrate on it. If you are juggling two things and you have a heavy workload, I think the first thing that you need to do, and the first thing I would advise, is to get organized. And once you are organized, you will feel less panicked. And I think panic drives an awful lot of how we deal with things when we are dyslexic. Now, that could be just from a personal view, because I know I panic, and the minute I start to panic, I start to just feel like I've lost control of everything. And then when I feel like that, I get even worse. The minute I go back and start structuring things and getting organized, folders, even if it's on the computer, timetables, my calendar, get everything organized, when I'm going to do what. If I have to do work on an assignment from an educational perspective, I'm going to assign my Tuesday nights for that. If I have to prepare for a meeting on Thursday, that's my Wednesday afternoon gone. I need to block that out. I need to do something there. I think when you start blocking your days out in your calendar to adhere to what you have coming up during the week, you will automatically feel more prepared and more calm and more organized, and then that will allow you to juggle more than one thing, and that's what I feel helps me an awful lot of the time.
That's great advice. I think that's the last of the questions, Aaron.
That's correct. That is the last of the questions. I think we'll finish the webinar now. Excuse me there. I think, as I said, I think it's been most inspiring, and it's been most appreciative to listen to someone that has achieved so much in her life and is in a place where using dyslexia to empower others and support others is a great thing. And I think that from being a severe dyslexic myself, it's so passionate to hear people like this and show that actually we're not alone. We can move forward. So it's really appreciated, Pamela.
Oh, Aaron, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Just thank you so much for having me on. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really, really did. And if anyone does want to ask me anything at the end, you have my email address there, or on Twitter. I'm always there. But thank you so much. It's been such a good experience, this. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we've worked out the best way to get hold of Pamela is through Twitter. Yeah, Twitter is the best way.
I'm always there.
Tomorrow is World Dyslexia Day, so lady in New Zealand, anybody else who's out there from different countries, is actually World Dyslexia Day tomorrow. So do look at our website for some of the resources we've got on there.
Yeah, so if you are on Twitter tomorrow, do support that. Do send out information about World Dyslexia Day, retweet it, and so forth. Margaret says, thank you all. It's been an excellent talk from Pamela. So yes, no, really, really excellent. So what we're going to do, I'm going to close down the webinar now. As Katrina has said, I'm going to record it. It's been recorded, so everyone's been happy with us to say their first name, so I'm going to leave the questions on as well. So if anyone has had their name read out too many times and they don't want the questions on, I will then, if they let me know, I will take them off. But I'll get that done hopefully in the next couple of weeks. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining again. Thank you, Pamela. It's been brilliant.
Good night.
All right.
No problem. Bye.
Take care, everyone. Good night.
Bye.